The last time, July 30th of 2018. I was living at the Roadway Inn in Montgomeryville. And it ain't no hotel. It's a motel, bro. This is rough. Like, Al ended up getting locked up. The girl I was with, Allison, gets locked up. And it gets to the point where it's like, I ain't got no money. I ain't got no dope, no drugs. And I'm living on, I wake up, I'm on the floor in the Roadway Inn, bro. And I remember looking in the mirror like, dude, is this like, 3 years before that, I'm fucking living in a fucking beautiful house. I got my kids. I'm fucking taking care of shit, you know what I mean? I'm clean.
Welcome to Dancing on a Volcano, episode 2. We are getting some momentum here. Now we've done at least one episode. I'm here with my man, Georgie Gambone. This is a beautiful part of this show because this is where I get an opportunity to just hang with my peeps and fuck all that other shit.
Yeah.
Right? So, George and I have known each other since the late 90s almost, I think probably 99 or 2000, right?
I think more like 98.
Yeah.
I think that's about right.
Yes. You were still with
my ex-wife.
Yeah, your
Sheila.
ex-wife,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I want to say girlfriend, but that didn't last very long.
No.
That was a
girlfriend would be better. I was with her longer as a girlfriend.
Right. We'll actually get there at some point because we'll talk about how all that happened because that was kind of weird how we first met and how we kind of squared up on each other and weren't really sure like what the fuck. You know what I mean? Like that was a weird evolution when we first met. And you were just 1998. You were still a kid, man. So I was 30. Right, so you would be 24. You just said you're 50
I just turned
now.
50.
Yeah, and I just turned 55 on the 9th, right?
Yeah,
so
about
you
20.
and I, right, so you were probably 24, 25.
Yeah.
To me, I was like, oh, look at this kid. You know what I mean? Well, because at the time, you were with her and she was my age. She was older by several years.
I think she's older than you, actually. She was a couple years older than you.
Is she really?
Yeah.
So, you ever see her anymore?
No, I actually, I heard she moved to Tennessee. That's what she told me last time I got a hold of Indy and then I called her, but you know how it goes. You and
I have had our stints with crazy bitches.
Oh yeah, man.
Right? We'll go there too.
We can go there, man. You here till 10 o'clock tonight? I got a lot of stuff to say, man. Let me tell you.
Yeah, we'll probably, the target is, try and get at least an hour. If we can get an hour and a half or maybe 2, we're solid.
I hear you.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, it really kind of depends. If we feel like we're beating a dead horse or we get stuck or whatever, we're not
I hear you.
stuck to keep going. So, all right. So I met George in we'll estimate like 1998, right? So my now ex-wife, but at the time wife, and I had bought a house down the street from a pizza restaurant where you were working.
Yeah.
And I went down right after we moved in to pick up some pizza or something and looked behind the counter at the girl that was working there and was like, hey, I dated you before I went into service, right? And I was like, and she was like, oh my God, right? And then she was like, this is my boyfriend George right here behind the counter. I think you were making pizzas or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? And you were like, you used to date her? Who the fuck are you? Get away from her. Right? But the funny thing was we were fast friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like we just kind of clicked and,
I think I met you a little bit before that. I don't think that's the first time I saw you because I think you used to come in and be like, yo, cuz, can I get one of them Sicilian pies? You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because part of like what ended up happening was, and we'll get to the recovery piece because we definitely got high a lot together.
Yeah.
But, I would come in there and be like, I remember like when we first started really hanging, it was like I had the inn with a guy who had access to a commercial kitchen all the time.
Oh yeah.
And I was kind of like, I remember coming in there just completely destroyed and being like, we were making like breakfast strombolis and we were scrambling eggs and throwing bacon in strombolis with long hots and shit. People
Whatever
were
you
like,
could come
"What
up
the
with, man."
What the hell are you doing? It's 1:30 in the morning. The kitchen's closed. We were like, fuck all that. We're in here getting it done. So
The benefit of having a family restaurant too, you know.
Right. Well, and we'll cover that a little bit. So, because, your last name's Gambone.
Yes.
So you come from a family of, at least in this local region, an area that's reasonably well known for, the name is well known because you have Gambone Steel, Gambone Construction, even though they're not all necessarily affiliated with your family. That name carries over. It's kind of like for me, Dinardo. If I have to hear somebody else say in Philadelphia, yo, you got the crab recipe, you know what I mean? I hear it all the time, right?
Yep.
I'm not related to them either, right? But you do have family, on the Gambone side that you are related to. I know Gambone Steel, right?
Yeah.
And then also your father, who I'm very fond of,
God bless him.
Yeah, he put up with your ass for
You
a long
ain't
time
kidding,
for
man.
sure, right? But your dad, being a CPA and a bookkeeper and all those other things, understood numbers.
Yep.
So you're watching him, early on, I watched a lot with, you and your family, like what you were doing, how you were investing, the properties that you were purchasing. And, you were, a big piece of that, you know what I mean? Like operationally holding together the businesses that they were running.
Yeah.
Right.
The best of my ability at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
you're looking at like, from a young age, they made me work. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was 13 years old working in a bar. You know what I mean? Making sandwiches and like, you want to talk about torture? 13-year-old kid walking pork sandwiches out through the middle of a packed bar. He got picked on like a motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it taught me, I worked. If I wasn't playing sports and I wasn't doing anything with school, I was working.
Right.
Right. And if I worked 40 hours a week and got paid $5 an hour cash, I was happy. You know what I mean? I was balling. You know
and
what I mean?
actually, yeah, for a kid that age, that is balling.
Yeah.
Now, I know based on conversations that we had that when we were younger, maybe 13, 14, you were playing ball, like your baseball. Was it
I
baseball?
love to play baseball. Yeah.
Yeah, baseball was your thing.
My favorite thing. Yeah.
Right. So now your family, the Gambone side of your family, right, was involved primarily in restaurants, bookkeeping. What else? What other businesses? Insurance.
Yeah,
right.
Auto insurance.
Right. Exactly.
They still are.
They still have the place on DeKalb.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So your dad's still
my
doing
dad still
taxes?
He has to go there, man. That's his all. He's still working. You know what I mean?
Right.
He has to stop there every day. You know what I mean?
You can't let him stop. If he stops, that's when we stop.
Yeah.
When we stop, we stop. You know what I mean? So, all right. So, so basically Norristown, East Norton, like that's the core area. Where did you go to school? You went to Norristown or?
Well, originally I went to St. Paul's. Then I went to Bishop Kenrick, which they're actually knocking down as we speak.
Right.
And after I got hurt playing baseball, I kind of stopped playing sports. Got the wrong crowd, so I got asked not to come back.
Didn't you go to Valley Forge?
No, I got into Valley Forge, but I ended up going to a private school out near Malvern called the Phelps School.
Okay, you went to Phelps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I know enough about. So it's funny because you know people really well, and then what you find out, even though you know them really well, is you find out all kinds of shit you didn't know.
Oh yeah.
Right. So this is kind of like really cool because we'll walk all different paths just to kind of find out more about things that I don't know. So, so I know you played baseball, right?
Yeah.
I know you were working in restaurants from a young age. Yeah. Right. Your pop primarily was invested in a couple, mostly like mid-level restaurants like pizza shops and things like that. Did he ever do any higher-end stuff like high-end restaurants?
I think the higher-end one, the highest one was when, the nicest one at the time was when you met me. You know what I mean? That was later on.
Pizza Time Saloon.
But yeah, he had other, he had his hands in a couple things, like little restaurants, bars. And honestly, it's just, I think it just happened. Like he did the insurance originally while he was going to college because he was going to school to be an accountant. My grandfather was, he would go house to house and do
Now, what
taxes.
did your grandfather do?
He was CPA.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, he was in World War II.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, World War II, came home, put himself through school, got his degree to be a CPA. Used to walk around Norristown door to door, $7 of tax return. So when he was out on doing his thing on the, walking around, my dad would be in the office at a young age. So people would come in, they always needed insurance. So he said, I could get my insurance license.
Right.
So that's how that started,
Now, you get along with your mom and dad. I know that
Absolutely.
well.
I love
right?
them to death.
Is there anybody in your
them.
family that you're estranged from or don't get along with?
I mean, we could get to that a little bit. Yeah, there is. I mean, actually,
Right.
listen, man, there's listen, you find out later on, like, my immediate family, like the core, my mom, my dad, my two kids, my niece, my nephew, my sister, my brother-in-law, like, they're solid, man. And ever since I've been clean, like, it's been the best time of my life.
Right.
And any chance I get, I try to involve myself in that because I've missed out on a lot of that shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And but yeah, like as you grow and get older, you see that, certain people have certain agendas, you know what I mean? And they don't always have the best interest in people, and I see it happening with, my dad and my aunt, and she's got, she's going through dementia, and it's tough to see. Like, it's hard to see it happen, you know what I mean? And, but, I have to bite my tongue because it's affected my life, because it's affected my parents' life. And, and listen, I remember talking to you about it, and things did work themselves out.
So, so I met you. I was going through a divorce. You were in the process of moving forward towards eventually getting married, right? We had a circle, kind of a core group of friends. You were, eating pills like they were candy.
Absolutely.
I was definitely getting my pill on too. You know what I mean? I was smoking chronic. You were scared to death of it because it made you so paranoid.
We can tell that story later on.
Yeah, we'll get there. We're going to tell that story too, for sure. All right. So, my marriage had really gotten to the point where things were not sustainable, right? And I didn't know how to navigate my way through that change. I was concerned that, my kids, because my ex was from Alaska, I wasn't sure if we split up, whether she was going to pack up and take the kids and try and move back home. And I was going to have some halfway across the country relationship, like more than halfway across the country relationship, because her brother, his two younger ones, they had gone through a divorce, and she moved to, I think it was northern Canada or something. And there was this huge distance, and it was so painful for the kids and painful. So I was scared, frankly.
Yeah.
And so,
that is scary,
and slowly the PTSD and a lot of other things that had caught up with me from the service. And I just started to slowly circle a deep, dark path of, right. So, and then you and I are kind of hanging out, and you're with your girl. And so, and I'm basically any opportunity that I can get, aside from the time that I'm watching my kids. I mean, at that point, even though I was still married, my relationship was, we'll just say, the pits. So I was spending a lot of time out of the house, frankly. And, and you were kind of like my, my running partner.
Yeah.
Yo, cuz.
Yo.
You know what I mean? And out the door we would run. So,
yeah.
So I got separated, and I moved from, my ex moved south, but she didn't move nearly as far as I'd been worried about. You stayed at the place where you were working for a while, and then you got serious and decided you were going to get engaged.
Yep.
So we had a mutual friend.
Yeah.
Right. And one day, he says to me, we're both tossed. Our mutual friend, and we won't say friend, our mutual friend, and we're tossed. And he says to me, hey, Georgie, he's going to pop the question. It's a serious thing. You know what I mean? It's going to happen. It's a surprise, man, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, Georgie's going to pop the question. And I guess I didn't hear the surprise part. So
were we at a gas station when I saw you?
Yeah. So I'm in the car with one of them. I can't even remember who I was with. I don't even think I was with him. I was with somebody.
Yeah, it wasn't him.
And I saw you and your girl pull up at the gas station. And I got out of the car and come running over, and I'm like, yo, congratulations. And I drag her hand through the window to look for the ring, and there's no ring on her hand.
Yep.
And you're in the driver's side going, yo. So I basically told her you were going to pop the question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So
I wish you would have ran, though. I wish you would have ran right then. It would have saved me a lot of
I didn't get invited to the wedding.
No, and you know what?
I always thought that was why.
That's fucked up.
I fucked that up.
You know what? And I'll be honest with you though. If I wasn't getting high and all fucking twisted and all up her ass, I wouldn't have gave two shits. You know what I mean? That's definitely. Right. I mean, it sucks. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Jimmy. My mom still asks, she gets upset because I had a beautiful wedding, man, and I fucking don't remember none of it, dude. I mean, literally none of it. I couldn't tell you our wedding song. I couldn't tell you the song I danced with my mom with. I mean, I was fucked up.
So let's
full blown,
let's
like
rewind and then come back through that.
Okay.
So so you used for the first time. How old were you?
I started smoking weed when I was, I think 13, 12 or 13. I mean, I was
Right.
drinking at 12. I know that.
Right. So we're
Smoking
about the
cigarettes
same-
at
about the
12,
same-
smoking
right,
weed.
Right. Okay.
You know.
So and then partying, having fun with your friends, and then you hurt yourself playing baseball.
Hurt myself playing baseball. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't heavy into like I would smoke cigarettes, but drinking and smoking weed or anything else was kind of in the distance. And then when we stopped playing sports at that age, 14, it's like, what else am I going to do? Like I didn't have nothing else to do. That's all I ever did.
Right. Right.
Okay, I could work, but I'm still in school, so I ended up, instead of hanging out with people that are playing sports and shit like that, I'm hanging out with the people I should be hanging out with.
Right.
And one thing leads to another. I had an older sister, always hanging out with the older kids, smoking. Yeah. And like I said, it starts out as a fun thing, you're just, or, passing time or doing whatever. But, once I was in the hospital, I was on morphine, I was on Demerol, I was on all kinds of shit. And I got off of it.
What did you hurt?
I hurt my knee. I had a compound fracture right below my knee. It tore my, and then it got infected. I was in the hospital 30 days, and I remember, they were pumping me full of all kinds of shit, which I probably needed. Right.
Right.
But, at that time, 1989, people, they didn't know anything about opiates and how bad it was going to be or anything like that. So like later on, I kind of got off of it. And from 17, I did my coke thing. I did my meth thing here and there, drank, all that stuff.
Right.
But it didn't really take it to the next level until I was about 17, 18. And I realized that because I wasn't really taking pills consistently then. But once I did get them from the dentist, I realized this is what I'm missing.
Yeah.
And I realized that with my injury and my MRIs and my doctors, I could get whatever the fuck I wanted, whenever I wanted.
Right.
So it made it kind of easy. You know what I mean?
Right. Not like it was hard in those years anyway, because by the time you were in your mid-20s, all the pill farms were rocking full blast.
And listen, and it wasn't an epidemic. It wasn't a problem. There was no regulation. So I could go, listen,
it wasn't a known epidemic.
No, it wasn't.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But I mean, we have mutual friends that were like, they had 4 doctors that they would
Oh, absolutely.
See.
Yep.
And you know what I mean? And they would get 300 from this one and 300 from that. And they literally had people waiting to pick up those scripts for cash. The money was unreal.
It's crazy. It was crazy. I mean, listen, I remember I had insurance, so I would get a script that would normally go on the street for $5,000. I was paying $40.
Right.
And then after a while, I figured out, okay, I can get one through cash, one, you learn how to do that shit because it's, something that I could do. I remember going to the doctor one time saying, like, I think I was 20. Like, I didn't think I had a problem until like I was like at 28, maybe. You know what I mean? I remember like, man, I'm going to have to be taking these all the time. And, our mutual friend one time gave me something. I was like, whoa, this is it. Like, I don't have to take 14 pills a day, bro. You know what I mean? I can take one.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Which turned into 8 eventually, but you know how it goes.
Right.
And
that was the Oxy era.
OC, baby. Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? I remember we got some of those together. I ate one time. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like shooting dope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it gave me like, man, I could do it. I felt like King Kong on that shit, man.
Right.
I could work 13 hours. I can go out and drink. I could party. You know what I mean? I can get up the next day, do the same thing.
Right.
And at that time, and you kind of focus on like, oh, I need to make so much money and, do whatever. And I did okay. But, man, the money you're spending on it eventually, man, I look back on it. I'm like, God damn,
Well, you know what? Like what do they say? Progressive, incurable, and fatal.
Right? 100%.
That's the progressive aspect of the disease is you don't really see it creeping up on you.
Yeah.
Because it's a gradual thing.
Yeah.
So you and I remember like, like over time, just, we had a friend of mine that I introduced you to that had a tattoo shop in Southwest Philly. I was on South Street in Philadelphia when I watched him pierce his first nipple. He brought me back into the tattoo shop that he didn't own. He was like, listen, I need you to come back in here and witness this. And then I watched him, pierce this girl's breast. And collect his money while he slapped his chops or whatever, flipped his long hair back because he was tough as nails, this guy.
Man.
And and it was like, and within 120 days, he had a tattoo shop in Southwest Philly.
Yep.
Couldn't tattoo a lick.
No.
I watched him practice on people. And
yeah, it was bad.
Some of the tattoos I saw him do, I was like, oh my God. I didn't want to really say anything about the quality level of the tattoos he was doing. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because I'll tell that story. Like, yeah, I had a buddy of mine. We used to hang at South Street, and then we used to hang in Southwest. And they're like, damn, you hang at a tattoo shop, you ain't got no tats. I'm like, yeah, man, I seen some crazy ass shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, I'm good. You know what I mean?
It was always Georgie the Benz and Jimmy the Fed.
Yep.
Right. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have.
You had the gadgets, baby.
Right. And I remember one time we went out there. Oh my God. I remember one time this young kid come in, this young tall black kid come in, and he was like,
I know the story already.
Man, I got a problem with this tattoo I got. And I was like, what's wrong with it? And he was like, he showed me, and he was like, and it looked like a hand that a 4-year-old drew, squeezing a wet paper sack or something on his arm. And I was like, oh. And then he said, this the problem, man. And he held up this photo, and it was a picture, like an NBA picture, and it was like this, professional basketball player crushing a basketball with his hand.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and our boy was like, nah, don't worry about it, man. I'll pay for the cover up. Like, it was like, and that was like his thing.
Yeah, dude, he didn't care.
But I remember one time we went in there, and I was carrying the 40 H&K.
Yep.
And were you there that day?
No, I wasn't there that day. I don't know why I didn't come down. I think I was working or something. But I remember I heard about it real quick though.
I'm wearing I'm wearing a shoulder sling.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh man, let me see that 40. And I'm like, what? And I go like this, and he reaches over and he clips the thing and he draws it out real quick, and blam! He cranks around into the floor, and he's like, oh. That is really nice. And then he's like, here. And he hands it. My ears are like, wee.
Yeah, you can't hear for...
I didn't hear for like 2 days. I was like, man, because we were in a really tight space. We were in a tattoo shop.
In a tattoo shop that there was people watching that fucking place too.
Exactly. So, those were crazy days. And, but the funny thing was that for what it's worth, still to this day, and it's the truth, there's a magnetism about the craziness.
Absolutely.
That he specifically brought to the table. Like, he's tried to connect with me like on Facebook and stuff, and I'm like, oh no.
Dude, bro, I moved my ass, right? I actually didn't move my ass. I got sent down to Florida, right? And I thought, like, yeah, I'm going to Florida for treatment.
Oh, that's right.
Well, hold up. So yeah. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go to Florida. I'm thinking I'm going to South Beach, right? So I packed my shit. I'll never forget my Uncle Jim. God bless him too. I love him. He take me to the airport one day, man, and I was so fucked up, bro. And I remember I was walking through security, and this is before 9/11, and so it was a little bit looser there, whatever. But I remember going through it. I had my bag. I was so fucked up, man. The girl doing the security check was like, damn, I had sunglasses on. You know what I mean? I just rolled out of bed, high as a motherfucker, all fucked up, heading to Florida, knowing that I got to make it, I don't know how far, without having my shit, right? So anyway, so I get down to Florida, and I remember flying to Pensacola Airport. And I get out there, I walk out the terminal, right? And I look, and there's one in the airport, there's the other, and there's two terminals. I'm like, where the fuck am I at, right? And I see this lady holding up my sign with my name on it. She goes, oh, wow. She goes, are you going to make it? I said, yeah, I'll make it. She goes, well, we got about an hour ride. So I'm driving through Escambia County, Florida, which is the poorest county in Florida, period. Right. And I'm going to treatment, right? It was recovery by the sea. You know what I mean? That's what I was told. I looked at the brochure, you know what I mean? Like, by the sea, bro. You know what I mean? That's what they said, right? So you had tennis courts, basketball courts. They had water, Man, we pull in this place, man. There's two buildings. There's an old basketball court, like, nets hanging, it's bent up. You know what I mean? It's like one of them ones you put out there. Right. I'm like, where's the water at? They're like, yeah, there's the canal right there. It's all swampy shit, right? That's where I'm at. I'm like, well, dude, I'm in Florida. I ain't got no money. I ain't got shit, so I'm staying, right? So anyway, I end up staying there, finished out that treatment, go to a recovery house, stay there for 90 days, I think. And, listen, wasn't ready, right? I mean, I stayed clean that time for 90 days, maybe 4 or 5 months, something like that. But I came home. As soon as I came home, 2 days later, boom, I'm getting high again, right? So I lasted like I think I came home right in November before Thanksgiving, and I ended up going back, driving myself back down to that recovery house in March.
Right.
I want to say it was 2009, I think. And so anyway, we get back to the story with Joe, and so I get down there with no intentions. I mean, it took me 13 days to get from Philadelphia to Pensacola.
Right.
Because I kept, turning around, getting more shit, going back, whatever. It was a fucking mess. So, so I finally get there, right, and I had no intention of staying clean. So, like, I get there, I had nowhere else to go, right. So I pee clean because I wasn't using. I had no money, no nothing. So my dad gave me just enough to get down there. Thank God bless him. You know what I mean? And made sure I got down there. Yeah. So, and I'll never forget. I woke up. My car had some issues. I had a BMW. I had a warranty, and I broke down in Montgomery, Alabama, on the way down there the last time. And I was like running the car. I knew something was wrong with it, but it finally was like, look, stop. Like the thing came up on the screen. Was like I had to stop. I get off in Montgomery, Alabama, right, and I look. It says BMW of Montgomery. I'm like, thank God. Then there's a Motel 6. Well, I fucking crashed a Motel 6 on Thursday, right? And I remember I got up because I went out, like there was some dudes out there shaving each other's heads and shit. And I was like, yo, man, anybody know I can get some crystal? Dude, they fucking packed their shit. Dude, they ran away from me. Like, only thing you find was hard or whatever. You smoked some crack or whatever. Right. I'm like, nah, I'm not about it. So anyway, I get down to the recovery house and I'm like, no intention of staying clean. And fall back into routine, do what I need to do. And I don't know if I linked up with you, like Joe's in New Orleans. New Orleans is only 4.5.
You called me and said, yo, I need Joe's number. And I was like, where are you? And you were like, Florida. And I was like, he's in New Orleans. And you were like, yeah, I need his number.
It was like,
and I was like,
yeah, it was 4.5 hours away. That's all. I'm like, because I knew a couple people that like did math, and I'm like, at that time, you couldn't find that. Yeah, dude, people run from you in Florida if you ask for that. Right. So I went to a couple people I thought could have it. Nobody was around. I'm like, fuck it. He's my only. And this is this. I've been there almost 3-4 weeks now, and I'm clean, right? Right. But I'm on that mission. I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to get something. So I end up making it like, yeah, I'm going to see a buddy of mine, blah, 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 whatever. So I get out for the day. I drive to fucking New Orleans, right? And listen, Joe ain't changed a fucking bit, bro. Comes in, he's down in the fucking French Quarters, you know what I mean? Got a tattoo shop at House of Blues, another tattoo shop across town. So anyway, I asked him before I went. I call him, talk to him. Yeah, come down, man. I got you. Whatever you need, I got you. It's like, all right. So, I do my thing. I drive there, pick him up. Comes walking out, man. You know him. Cut off jeans, no shirt. Look like, honestly.
Straight out of the yard.
Like, bro.
Straight
dude,
out of the
flat
yard.
out, you know what I mean? Mean as fuck. Yeah. Look like Mickey Rourke in The Wrestler, bro. He really just does. Like he does. Really you know what I mean? And God bless, and always treated me good, you know what I mean? To the most part, you know what I mean?
I still love him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No bullshit. I love him. I can't be around him.
No, fuck no.
But I love him.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, he's like, all right, come on, man. Him, he's chomping around. Come on, we got to do this, do that. Right? So I take him to a tattoo shop. Cleans out the register. Taking to another tattoo shop, talking to a couple guys, to clean out the register. We got to stop over here. We're going to the Tulane Medical Building. He's like, just wait right here, dude. I'll be right out. Then we go to the Western Union. I'm like, this motherfucker, man. He's getting pills. I'm like, bro. I'm like, give me some. Oh, yeah, we'll get that. We go to another tattoo shop. Can't find no crystal. He's like, look. He said, you want to go the other way? You want some H? I'm like, dude. Like, man, I didn't come down here for that shit. I'm like, fuck it. So I ended up, I hung out with him for a little bit, rolled back. I'm like, fuck it. I ain't getting no shit. You know what I mean? And, but yeah, dude, that's the last time I saw Joe.
The thing that I always felt funny about Joe is, as I recall, and I'm not 100% sure, Joe's father was a DEA agent, right? That was his background.
No shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Joe was DEA. Joe's dad was a DEA agent, or at least that's what DEA agent. That's what he had told me. And he was like a drug supermarket, but you never knew what drug.
Dude.
Like he had so many contacts and so many connections, but you never really, but you were basically going to get whatever he had access to. Yeah. Sometimes he had access to a lot of things. And then other times it was like, you want to go this way or that way because that's the ways that we're, and me as a garbage head, I went down the path of what you got in your pocket was good because if it was that or not being altered, I was going with that. But, and we've got, I think probably 10 stories that are Joe stories where, you know
Dude,
what
it's
I mean?
crazy,
Like,
man. Listen, I know I went down there one time by myself when he was in Southwest. And, you know, he always had some kind of shit going on, like dudes dropping off sweatsuits and sneakers and
right,
whatever. Dude, it was
right,
like a flea market in there sometimes. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, that was really bad.
Yeah, dude, there's a lot of stuff like that with him. But, you know, hey, man, listen, one thing I can say is, dude, I'd never know another guy like that where I could just call and be like, yo, I'm coming down. And go down there with a list of whatever I wanted and be like, let's go here, there, whatever, boom, 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 boom. And within like hour or two, we got it.
He wasn't able to keep me safe, but I was safer than I would be if I was with anybody else.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, he definitely had my back, and he definitely had a street-wise ability that you and I weren't raised with.
Yeah,
Nowhere near that. Like, he just had a way of, so in any case, all right, so you got clean. Went to Florida, got clean, came back.
Well, I went away first in 2005.
Right.
And, no, 2006.
Right.
And when I went to Karen, I got out. And listen, honestly, like, when you're doing opiates, man, I was a full-fledged opiate addict for like 12 years. I went every day. Listen, I didn't miss a day. Like, I had it set up where, every day, morning, noon, and night, I had what I needed. Now obviously that ceiling, there's no ceiling to it; just keeps getting more and more and more. But
right.
I had it situated where I could do that. One, I always worked, I always had money, right? Which was one of my downfalls. Two, I always had, I could always get a script or whatever I needed to get to keep it going. And so I go, I go away, and honestly, this is after I got divorced, and I remember, everybody was catching on, and honestly, because Sheila, and I'll tell this story real quick. I had it situated where I had a lady that was retired that moved out to like Hazleton. I had another lady that moved out near Pittsburgh. There was another lady. Like, these are older ladies now, and I knew their husbands. The one passed away, but she got a script. So every month, on whatever day, I had deposit slips of hers, and I would just deposit the money, and 2 days later, boom, I'd have it at the pizza shop or wherever I was working. You know what I mean, or whatever I would send it to. So it was like a constant thing. And I remember I had dude, literally, I had fucking stacks of deposit slips, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, because they don't let you do that now. You can't go to somebody's account and put cash in anymore.
No,
but then you could, okay?
Yeah.
So, like, she never questioned me. I mean, I was sending her $150 a month, and she was paying for her car. She was happy as shit, and I was getting what I needed. You know what I mean? And I would sell half, keep half, whatever. So, but I remember Sheila, I got home one night, and she had all of these deposits. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of deposit slips. Probably for about 2 years. And they were all lined up on the table. And she goes, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, none of your fucking business. Why, don't get in my business. So that was kind of the start of, like, I think she was catching on. I think she said something to my pops, and like, honestly, if you asked them up until I was 30, 31, if I ever used drugs, they would have laughed. They were like, no. Like, that's how, that was just part of me.
It was your operational.
Yeah, dude, that's just the way.
It was your normal.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I remember, so anyway, one thing leads to another. I get divorced, and I'm with Kate, and me and her are a mess because I start doing meth heavy and all that shit, and but I still doing the opiates. And I remember it was like a Sunday, and it was like I had to go. I had to, of course, because of my own business, I did well. But once I went away, my dad put the clamps on it. He's an accountant, he's tight. You know what I mean? And he was like, nah.
He knew
I'm gonna watch on your shit.
Yeah, he knew what was up.
Which kind of put a damper in my game. So I remember him saying, like, I get to her house the one night, right? And there's like no cars there or nothing. I'm like, the fuck is up with this? Like, it's a Sunday, right? I walk in, and of course there's my whole family, like my immediate family, and then two guys I don't know. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're having intervention. I think it's this and that. And dude, I was cool and calm. You know what I mean? Because I was really beat. I was just taking the pills to be normal. It wasn't like I was high or nodding or anything. I was just normal day to day, like I am right now. And I remember, everybody reads their thing, and God bless them. They were all there to help me. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I didn't know it, dude. My idea of, because I knew I had a problem at that time, but my idea of going to treatment or going to rehab was like, back then was like, I thought they were going to put me in a room, padded room, lock the door, and come back after 2 weeks. And I was going to be suffering like a motherfucker. I had no idea, you know what I mean? So, but anyway, so that's how I ended up in treatment. I ended up not being able to get my script that night. Right. And I was fighting with Kate because she took my last pill, the whole 9 yards. I didn't get what I wanted. I was only going to be 8 or 10 hours without something, you know what I mean, before I could get it.
Right.
And So I ended up start drinking or whatever, and I pass out. And I remember Kate left, and she came back to the house. And when she got back to the house, I was just laying on the ground. You know, I had passed out. I was like, I was fucked up. She thought I was dead. So they kicked the door in, they Narcan me, and they put me in the hospital, and I ended up in treatment. Well, dude, I was a mess, bro. I mean, after 12 years of opiates, when you get hit with Narcan, dude, I was chained to the bed like a freaking animal. I mean, I remember bits and pieces of it, but I was chained to the bed. I remember, they said my mom came in, just turned around and walked out. Like, she'd never looked at me the same. You know what I mean? And I guess she didn't,
Right. Right.
Because that'll bring the worst out in somebody. And but anyway, so I went to treatment, and the first couple of weeks, was, listen, they taper you on like subs or whatever they put you on, and I was just first off, I was young. I had no idea about anything about recovery or do this or do that. I heard all the same shit back then.
Right.
When you get out, go to a meeting, all that stuff, and they were trying to send me to California for 3 months after I left there. But they only told me like a week. They kept me there 3 weeks and then told me that, and told my dad that. He's like, "What do you mean send him to California?" But I wish I would have done that now,
right?
Because it would have changed my life. But you don't get a chance to go back. But anyway, yeah. So that was like my first treatment. You know what I mean? And then I stayed on subs for a while. Then I was on the meth. Or what? I've been in treatment 6 times.
I mean, what was the ugliest gift of desperation for you? Like, what was the one that was like? Dude, the worst day or the worst night.
The last time, July 30th of 2018.
What did that day look like?
I was living at the Roadway in Montgomeryville, 309.
Oh, I know, right where you're
It ain't no hotel.
Yeah,
It's
right,
a motel, bro. This is
yeah.
rough,
Yeah.
So, and I was living there for like 3 months, and Al ended up getting locked up. The girl I was with, Allison, gets locked up, and I'm there by myself, and I'm I'm driving a car that's not mine, so I got to drop the car off. So I got no wheels, right? I'm trying to sell shit just to pay my, and I'm getting high, right? And it gets to the point where it's like I ain't got no money, I ain't got no dope, no drugs, and I'm living. I wake up, I'm on the floor in the Roadway Inn, bro. The rug's wet from the bathroom that's leaking. Right. There's a pet mouse in the motherfucker. There's roaches the size of fucking, a football rolling around that bitch. And I remember looking in the mirror like, dude, is this like, 3 years before that, I'm fucking living in a fucking beautiful house. I got my kids.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm fucking taking care of shit. You know what I mean? I'm clean. And I remember like, dude, there's no fucking way I could live like this. Like, it's either I'm going to kill myself, which I won't.
Right.
But it's just got to be different. And of course, like, anybody else, I was owed so much. There's people still out there that owe me money. I probably, and it's a bunch of money. It ain't a little bit of money, but, that's just part of it. And if I tried to call them like, hey, I need this, they didn't fucking give a fuck.
Yeah. Right.
I remember calling my pop. He's like, hey, we want to pick you up. I said, yeah, I'm ready. I got to go. I said, I got to get the fuck out of here. Comes picks me up. I remember it was a Thursday, or it was I think
this was when?
2018.
18.
This is 18. Yeah, this is the last time I went away. This is so far.
Well, behind the scenes, your father and I are talking.
Oh, absolutely.
Regularly.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
Because he knew that you were clean, and then I got clean.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
I had started dating my wife, and she'd been, she knew about the program and all that other stuff.
Yeah, I remember Robin I remember taking me to a meeting. I don't know where. I think it's when I got back from Florida the first time, maybe.
Right. No, actually, that was actually after I got clean. So that would have been after 2018, because I called you and was like in 2013 when I got clean.
Okay.
And you told me about the place in DeKalb, which is where I went to my first meeting. I've been clean ever since that meeting.
It was Township Line and Whitehall Road.
Yeah.
It was Olivet.
Yeah.
They still have a meeting there.
That little white church.
They still have a meeting there on a Monday night,
Right.
but Wednesday I think they don't have it now. But so I think I was away before that, and I ended up staying clean for like 4.5 years. But I didn't work a program. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I wasn't doing a 12-step program. I wasn't doing anything. I started that way.
You put your get high on pause.
Yeah, but I mean, when I came back, that's when I came back, like when I went to see Joe and all that stuff, and then I came back, I actually had a good base because I stayed away for 22 months. I wasn't with the kid's mom. She was drinking and still doing her thing. You know what I mean? I got the kids. I was living by myself. I left all the women alone. I wasn't messing around. You know what I mean? Concentrated on my health, work. It was great. Everything was good. You know what I mean? But I stopped doing the things that I needed to do, especially, just going to, 12-step fellowships, or getting in service or any of that. I stopped that completely.
Right.
And I lasted a while, you know what I mean? Because you keep yourself busy, right? But throw some women in the mix, right? Throw some women up in the mix, you know what I mean? And let me start feeling good. And then I got this. Like, I can have a drink, you know what I mean? Like, I can go have one drink. Now, I realize now, man, I never had one of nothing.
Right.
I mean, you give me M&Ms, Tic Tacs, I don't care what you're talking about. Right. Never had one of nothing. So, like, then it was like, and it's funny because my parents will always, and God bless them, they'll always look at it as like, oh, it was the girl's influence, or it had nothing to do with that, man.
Well, you know what? There's something to be said about, when you're, and it's for me too. Like I don't see the foibles of my children. You know what I mean? Like, they might piss me off a little bit. He and I might argue once in a while, et cetera, et cetera. But I love him, and I'm not gonna say. My mom would say he can do no wrong. Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? Like, but when
I say that, I don't get me wrong. The choice in women would where I would pick one that would put up with my shit, and then eventually start doing what I wanted them to do, or do what Right. They're right there.
It was a control thing.
Yes,
too.
Definitely in that sense, they're right. But ultimately, I wasn't getting high, when I met Al. Al kind of found out 3-4 weeks after we started hanging out and was like, oh, well, I'm not going to do that, but I'll do Adderall, right? Whatever, and then if one thing leads to another.
Different seats on the Titanic.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But,
your dad would call me and just, he was so jammed up. He was like,
Absolutely.
Did you talk to him? I'd be like, no, did you? No, I ain't heard from him either.
Dude,
he's in bad shape, man. I'd be like, and the funny thing was, not funny, how funny, ironic was that you had been clean before me, and then I got clean because I followed you into, you know what I mean? I was like, okay, you were carrying the message, showing me it was possible, even though I wasn't even really. I just knew that you had gotten clean so that it was possible to be clean.
Yep.
And I was like, I need to go to one of those meetings. And I went to that first meeting. I had the gift of desperation, and I just rolled in.
Yeah, you never left. Right. And that's how I say the last time was in that hotel room.
Right.
And I remember, dude, it was the third time I went to the facility I went to, and it wasn't far from Philadelphia, but it's a long ride up the mountain, man. And I remember just like, I'm done.
Right.
Like, I'm done, man. I don't want to do what I've been doing, I don't want to miss out on my kids' lives, and I mean, Jimmy, I remember when, before I went to Florida, that one time when I went down to see Joe that time, I remember children and youth got involved because I had no business, taking care of 2 kids, man. You know what I mean? I had no idea what I was getting on, and I didn't give a shit.
Right.
And I remember Kate, I literally had a house where Kate was living with her mom and the kids, and I lived we shared a driveway.
I remember that.
Yeah, she took the kids out there, and I'm not saying she was being perfect, but she was a lot better than I was. I was a handful, right?
Right.
And I remember the girl from Children and Youth, like, oh, well, George, I really want to be on your side. Like, I need to can you give me one clean urine? I said, you're wasting your time. Ain't going to happen, man. I couldn't do it. Right. I couldn't stay clean for a couple of hours, let alone 3 days.
Right.
I said, just whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I'm going to Florida and whatever, you know what I mean? I didn't really care. But, and you could say that, like, in the beginning, I thought, having a daughter was going to keep me clean. And, having a son that would get my act together and shit. Guess what, man? If you're not doing the things that we're taught to do, you know what I mean? And especially staying plugged in and changing the people, places, and things, man. You ain't got a chance. Like, I'm just as susceptible to being that way again if I let myself be in situations constantly over and over again, because that's going to win every time. As long as I surround myself with good people, I got a chance. You know what I mean?
So let's go from there. So, you just celebrated an anniversary.
Yeah.
Right? When was your anniversary?
July 31st. It was 6 years. Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, man. I consider that's more important to me than my real birthday.
That's 6 years.
And that's not because I'm fit.
That's 6 years.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's 6 years without a mind or mood-altering substance,
yes.
with the exception of nicotine, cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe energy drink here and there.
Yeah. I'll do that. I'll do that too.
Yeah.
Right? But, avoiding substances.
Yeah.
So, and that's, when you come from backgrounds like you and I, it's a miracle.
Yeah, dude, dude, I still some days I'm amazed at, like, And listen, man, I still feel for people. Like you were talking, like my dad would call you, and that like he's jammed up because ain't nothing anybody could do, man. You got to want it for yourself. Like you can't, and I'll shout out.
How many people have we buried?
Oh, dude,
it's insane.
Dude, it's rough, man.
It's insane.
It's rough. And you know what? And people who just, listen, I'll shout out to Vinny M because he got a year clean, man. And you know what? He watched me for a good 4 years. You know what I mean? And just, just grinding it out and had a rough time. And finally, and he had his issues with whatever to get him where he needed to be. But, he realized it was possible. And like, it's, that's like a miracle. Like you celebrate a year, or somebody last night was celebrating, clean for like, 30 days, 60 days. Like, dude, that's a big deal, man. Because I didn't think I could go. Yeah, I didn't think I could go one day, man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So hard
like,
to do.
I remember looking at my dad. I remember I went to a therapist and I was clean for a while, and she helped me out a lot, like as a life coach and all this.
Right.
She was great, right? And then I started using it again, and I remember making an appointment to see her, and she was like, George, she's like, and my dad was in there, and she's like, don't you? Well, I said, yeah, I forget what she said. Like, don't you, you were doing so good, and you were doing this, and you're doing that, and I was like, you know what? Honestly, I'm enjoying myself right now. Like, this is what I want to be doing the rest of my life. I remember saying it to her.
Right.
Which, hey, listen,
which is insanity.
Absolutely, 100%, bro.
Insanity.
100%. I mean, living like crazy, bro. Living like crazy.
Well, being close to you, right, I get to see the after effects of what the changes in a clean life and clean lifestyle have been for you.
Yeah.
Like, you've got your children back in your life. You've got the respect of your family.
Yeah.
The times I've visited you, been to your mom and dad's house and stopped in there and saw the glimmer in both of their eyes, just happy, not worried about whether or not their son's going to live or die. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen you reemerge into the workforce.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're getting ready to exit a position in a pretty good position and an opportunity to figure out what's next and where you're going career-wise. And that's it's actually, I know it's a little scary or weird, but in the other way, it's kind of a really good thing. Because
absolutely.
It could ultimately turn out to be, you go to do something on your own, or you get in a completely different industry.
Yeah.
There ain't no ceiling on this thing, Brave.
No, I know. And you know what? Honestly, like I said, when we talk about staying clean, I do it very slowly. Listen,
for those who are listening, he's talking about the 12-step process, which is, for some more than others, is a very slow process.
Damn, I thought you were
going to. He thought he was going to get out. He was like, he was getting ready to shut down. Be like, yeah, man, that was good. I'm like, nah, you know what I mean? Like, but here's the thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just because you stop that process doesn't mean that it's frozen.
No. Well, right? I'll be honest. Like, and what I'll say is, like, I remember, being with Allison, and I was, COVID happened and all that stuff, and I remember. And of course, I opened up a smoke shop, and which is a bad idea for somebody in recovery, right? And a bad idea if you're if you're with somebody that wants to try to stay clean, you know what I mean? But honestly, way ahead of its time, because they're all over the place now. But
right.
But anyway, so me being around that and like that grinding me down, and her actively using and being in front, all that stuff, right? It beat me down to the point where I remember calling you, and I was like, look, man, like I got it. This is it. I got to walk away from her. I mean, somebody that I love and somebody I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. And I still talk to her, man. I wish her the best, you know what I mean? But it's one of the hardest things you have to do is like you're watching somebody that you love. Like just there. Listen, I could try to reason all I want. I ain't winning that battle for somebody else, bro.
Right.
And I almost got caught up in trying to, get her, like try to get her straight and fix this stuff like that, where I forget about working on myself.
Manage and control.
Yeah, and I forget about taking care of myself, man. And I remember you were like, "Yo, first thing you got to do is get over." You know what I mean? And dude, that's one of the biggest things. I even say that now, and I know a couple of people I hang out with.
I thought you were going to go use.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was worried about you.
Absolutely.
You know
I don't think you were the only one.
You were your obsession and compulsion and. Yeah. You were locked and loaded with, and there was nothing good that was going to come out of that, because she wasn't living a life or a lifestyle that was conducive. She was people, places, and things. And
I'm like, well, how can? Yeah, but I'm at that time, I'm like, I'm clean. How can you be doing what you're doing? And how come you're lying to me? And how come there's money missing? And how come, are you
Because
kidding me, man? Like, that's what I do.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that's what
I'm
we do.
answering my own question,
Right,
but
right,
when you're in a relationship, you kind of get blinded by that, right?
Right.
And, but, you know, it's like, you know, I remember getting home group, and I did, man. And honestly, like, that saved my life. Honestly, 3
What,
years
the home
clean,
group?
with 3 years clean, yeah, because I found one. Like I remember you telling me, don't find somewhere where you're needed, not where you want to be. You know what I mean? Like find somewhere that needs some small group, and I did, man. You know,
really did, and I remember you going,
Dude.
and there'd be like 1 or 2 people, and you were opening up.
Well,
and setting
before
up
that, it
literature.
was like there was 4 or 5 women,
right,
and I was like, oh yeah, like yeah, I'm gonna be a hot shot, right? I want to be, but little did I find out they had a lot of good recovery, right? And they kind of forced me into. You know, there was only a couple of home group members for a while, and like, hey, how about you do our you know, GSR for this just for the year, you know? Right. And I did it, and I opened up the meeting every day, and I did this, I did, you know, and you're working a 12-step program, and like you realize after a year goes by, I'm like, damn,
right,
I got another year. You know what I
Right.
mean? And then I went through some shit where I had to like, that was like my baby home. Like that was my home group, man. It was like my first one, right? So like it felt dear to my heart. And I remember calling a couple people like, I can't go there no more. You know, whatever, because of my
Right.
kid's mom and,
Yeah.
you know, just aggravating me. And
showing up to heckle you from the audience.
yeah, I mean, coming
That's
20
a little
minutes
hard.
late. Yeah, man.
right,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
right.
right, that's
Yeah.
a lie. You're lying. Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, all right, whatever. Like, there's a lot of shit you don't know, too. You know what I mean?
We're not
Like,
under surveillance. Well, maybe, maybe the XO lady could show up and heckle me from the audience.
Yeah.
I think that counts as surveillance.
But, you know, so, and I took it like personal, right?
Right.
And I remember calling a couple, and they're like, yo, just get a fucking new group. Just go get one.
Right.
You know, like I remember a couple guys that I've got to know and like going on trips with. They're like, yo, just come here for right now. We're here.
Right.
And then
right.
we decide to do. And I've been there since. And it's like, you know what? GSR, I got another year. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like it just carries on like, okay. And granted, like I said, you know, certain things that out of the 5 things we need to do, I'm doing 3 pretty consistently all the
Right.
time. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the biggest one to help me change
Right.
is what I'm going to start working on, because I'm not the only one in my home groups that have shared about it. There's about 3 or 4 of us. So we're kind of on the same, like, yo,
Right.
when your sponsor's got to call you, you know what I mean? Some shit's going on, you know what I mean? So,
Well,
but
so
it's a good thing.
here's the thing, like with regards to the step process, right? Like it didn't happen for me in the way that you would think. Like for me, you would think like, oh, Jimmy D was all motivated and blah, you know what I mean? Like, you know, my sponsor was like, you know, if you're serious about, you know, your recovery, I'll see you in 30 days with a written step 1. And in a year I had done 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
And then, you know, rest in peace, Frankie T.
Yeah.
You know, asked me to sponsor him. And it was funny how that happened too, because I think, so Frankie said to me, so I don't know if I ever told you this story either.
I think you did, because he finished before. Wait, was he?
Well, so how he ended up, so he called me and said, hey man, how do you get those meetings? I might be, don't, you know, put any, like, it's not the only time he said this, don't get all excited now. Right. But I think I might want to go to one of those meetings, man. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, oh, cool. I was like, come on out to my home group. You know what I mean? Which was was in Drexel Hill.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on out to my home group and, you know, introduce you to some people, whatever. So he came out. It was I was speaking for my anniversary that night. He didn't know it.
No shit. Okay.
So he brought so Joe had been dead for a couple of years. So he brought his nephew with him. So they walked in, you know, I hugged both of them. I put them in chairs in the front row.
Yeah.
I bought them both a basic text. I handed each one a basic text. Then I went up and sat behind the table and shared for my 1 year.
Nice.
So the next day, Frankie called me and asked me, you know, the sponsor thing, will you sponsor me? And I called Big Al and I said, can I sponsor this kid? And he said, well, you know, it doesn't say anywhere in the literature that you can sponsor somebody unless you use together or you got a history together. If you don't think it's going to get in the way, then go ahead. Well, immediately he got after moving the pen. And then I was like, uh-oh, you can't pass me. Right. So he kept like working really hard. And then I was working really hard just because ego pushed me through the steps, because I didn't want him to reach a certain point where I couldn't beat the guy who had been further along than him. Like I was supposed to. So, you know, so at least in part, you know, some of, you know, what might help you is finding somebody to guide through the process, because as they start getting through the process, you start realizing that you're going to have to let them go, and somebody else is going to have to guide them once they get to where you're at. So you better get it moving.
I got you.
Right. So, and we only keep what we have by giving it away. So,
Yeah.
I
got you.
For me, that's helped me a lot. You guys have kept me clean.
Yeah.
You have too,
Yeah.
just so you know.
All right.
There ain't no big eyes, no little U's.
Yeah.
As Al would say, big shots, little shots, one shot, we're all shot.
Yeah, man.
And boy, ain't that the truth, and, boy, we waded into some shit, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's all good, man. Yeah, it's good shit.
Yeah,
man.
that was
I could
cool,
sit here all
man.
day and talk
Yeah,
to you.
that's
like
cool.
that.
That's cool.
We got a lot of
we got a lot of history. Like,
Oh,
we've
yeah.
known each other a long
Absolutely.
time. So,
it-
so let's talk about what's next. So now your kids that you were estranged from at one point, that children and youth were involved in at some point.
Yeah.
Now you're involved in their life, and you get to spend time with them, and you get to go on vacations with them. I know you were just
dude,
in
the
Long
friend-
Island.
Yeah, we're up
with
at
them.
Rochester.
Rochester,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
a couple days ago.
Yeah, dude, it was great. It's
I saw
beautiful.
that, and and your son now, who was
Yeah,
they
man.
were little when I, you know what I mean? Like he's 6'3"?
He's about 6'2", 6'3". Yeah, about. I think he's about 220 right now.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? Your son
And Jimmy,
your
I'm
daughter are
lucky. I got
beautiful.
good kids, bro. Thank God.
Yeah.
Right as of right now, you know what I mean. And of course, you always want the best for them.
It takes a village, and
Yeah.
frankly, kudos and props go to your mom and dad. They're saints
Absolutely.
because
Yep.
they held the torch for you
100%,
for a
man.
long
do.
time, right? Well,
They
yeah,
still do
sure.
a lot.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I'm sure.
So.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do.
I'll try to take some credit for some shit though. You know what I
Well,
mean?
you know what, and that's okay too. You know what I mean? Like, just showing up late in the game and still participating in is
Yeah.
still a lot of work, even if you got late to the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can undermine where I'm at and say it's less than what it is. You know what I mean? Or I can look at it with an air of gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
It's all the same shit. It's all how you look.
Like
at
honestly, dude, I woke up every morning when I was up there in upstate New York. Like I've never been up to Rochester.
Right.
Rochester Institute of Technology anyway. And like my sister rented a house, and like my brother-in-law's there, my sister's friend was there, and my kids and my niece and her boyfriend came up, and my nephew, they're my godson and goddaughter. You know what I mean? And like they're a part of my life now. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a good thing, man. It's a blessing, man. It's a blessing. I didn't think, man, if you would have talked to me, 6.5 years ago, I was like, psh, man, nah, I want to be slinging, and this is what I'm going to be doing, and I'm living in motels, and like, come on, man, like seriously, that's where it takes me, man. That's where you say gift of desperation, man. Like, yeah, man, I knew I had to be something better for me than that. You know what I mean? And I'm glad.
And that's what dancing on the volcano is all about.
Absolutely, man. Yeah,
And that's what dancing on the
I mean, there's a
volcano
lot
is
more
all
stories we can get into that.
Woo.
Like, I mean, I could talk about me and you putting our face down in the volcano waiting for that thing to come up because we've done it. You know what I mean? It is. It's crazy. It's crazy. And even now I'll like dance around certain shit. You know what I mean? And like, I'll be like, I'll try to justify it. I'm like, nah. If I'm trying to justify some shit, man, I know I ain't supposed to be doing it. You know what I mean? So.
Well, one of the things, the takeaways from this, and is going to be, just to make sure, I'm trying to make sure that I reinvest and double down in the people that I love and care about to try and be in their lives more than I already am.
Yeah.
And it's a two-way street. It's reciprocal. But I also realize that sometimes with all the things I have going on, I became absentee as well. So, and you're one of those people that,
Absolutely,
especially
dude,
as
I
you
love it,
navigate
man.
your way through this next transition and where you go next, you know what I mean? Like not only just for your recovery, but also, where you go with your life and whatever, you know what I mean? I'm here and always have been.
Oh, I know. Trust me.
So what I'm going to do right now is, and I don't expect you to answer this question yet, but what I am going to do is share with you the question that was shared from David Berger, who was
Great episode, by the way, Dave.
That came out really good, didn't it?
Yeah, I might be calling him.
So I'll tell you what.
Send me that number, Dave.
He's solid,
Yeah.
just dynamite people.
And a great story.
His
too, man.
story's inspirational for sure. So, I put him on the spot at the last meeting, and then he was like, I don't have the question. He was like, I'm gonna have to text you and let you know what the question is. He said, here it is. Hang on a minute. When was it? Because when was the last time you tried something new? I thought, wow, that's pretty dope.
Okay.
That's a good one. When was the last
So
time
he wants you to
tried
answer that, huh?
Yeah. So,
I tried something new. I mean, honestly, man, I can't say the health thing because that's not.
Well, I know there's a big white horse in the parking lot. That was something new. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
man. Well, you know what, dude? I listen, Jimmy. That's some of the things that I have given up, like over the years, like because I was getting high. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
you know,
right.
I was riding a motorcycle when I was 6 years old. Like,
Right.
we got family, like we had family video, like the big wheel video,
Right,
of
right.
like me and my sister on the back of a bike when I was like 6 in a pair of shorts, like ripping through the yard and shit. You know what I mean? Like I rode. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's something that I enjoyed doing. But like, you know, then I played sports. But after that, it was like I stopped doing everything. Like getting high became my full-time job, other than
Right.
having to work to support
Right.
that habit. You know what I mean? Like I left everything go, like riding motorcycles, golfing, you know, just anything. You know what I mean? I forgot going to concerts. I used to go to all kinds of concerts, man. Guess what? Listen, I've had opportunities to go to Greece. I had opportunities to go to Egypt. For this is like at a month at a time.
Right.
Amsterdam, you know, for a month. This is when I was younger, and like I didn't want to leave my area, dude. Like I wasn't
Couldn't leave the dealer.
Well, yeah, I didn't know if I could make it. You know what I mean? So I'm like, nah. Like, there's a lot of things that I turned down and like stopped doing. That, you know, I mean, and honestly, like riding, it was like the perfect time because I was like, you know, started riding, then I started getting back into my recovery, and I met a bunch of people that ride, and like, you know,
Right.
they embraced me, and like, you know, they mess with me, of course, you know what I mean, because it's got, you know, because I ain't got a Harley or whatever the guys want to say. But the bottom line is like they're guys that are there for me, you know what I mean, and like
Right.
they're all
Right.
staying clean. They're all trying to live good lives, and you know, if I need some, you know, if I can't get a hold of you or I can't get, somebody's going to answer the phone for me. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean about people, places, and things. Like I mean, the only people that I talk to that I used to get high with are you, Vinny,
Right.
you know, people that are clean now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Other than that, like, man, listen, I'm sure people have died. I know people that are in jail. I know people that, you know, continue to do what they wanted to do. And like, it didn't work out well for them. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right. And I don't really need them in my life.
No,
to be honest.
no.
I feel for them, you know what
Well,
I
I
mean?
said-
But I can't afford to be exposed to them.
No, and that's like, you know, like what Dave was saying in the last podcast, people you surround yourself with, you know, I mean, that's what you're going to be a reflection of, you know what I mean? And
Right.
my grandfather used to tell me at a young age, you know what I mean? But,
Right.
you know, so, you know, nowadays, man, it kind of gets kind of boring to me.
Well, that
like-
was kind of where at least I was hoping, because this is like a situation where, and you know, when I say this to you, is it, you know, in our relationship, I know said it to other people too. Something that was posed to me. I'm not an innovator. I stand on the shoulders of giants and borrowed ideas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, it's not a conversation of answers; it's a conversation of questions.
Yeah.
And you know, and right now is a really cool situation for you because you stand on the precipice of what's next. And the interesting thing about asking you a question like the one Dave posed to you is, there isn't an immediate answer or something pops up that you know that you've done new recently, which really kind of leads to the fact that, you know, you come out of this and go, now it's time for me to do something new.
Absolutely.
Right. And if not one thing, many things.
Yeah.
And that's the miracle of recovery, is the choice to do new things.
Yeah, man.
And, you know, and then as this, you know, this business transitions to new ownership, and, you know what I mean? And you know,
And like I said, I don't know where that's going to go or whatever, but I
Right.
mean, as of right now, they're treating me well. I got time to spend with my family. I'm there with them a lot. So, you know what?
you ask yourself at some point how much is enough too. You know what I mean? Like, especially when you get, you know, in your later years. it's
Well, I
like-
mean, listen, I figure I hopefully got a good 15 years left. You know what I mean? So,
Right,
is
right.
what I plan. So, and that's enough time to do what I need to do.
So,
you know?
so you have an assignment,
Okay.
right? And
Yeah.
your assignment is to sit down and write 5 things new that you want to try,
Okay.
even if you don't know if you want to do them.
Okay.
Right? Just 5 new things that you want to try. You know what I mean? And whether it's traveling to a place you haven't been, or, you know, participating in a sport or event that you haven't tried, or, you know what I mean? Like, you know, come up with 5 things.
Okay.
And then the next time we have a podcast, you know, we'll talk about where we left off at this last one. And instead of it being, hey, where did you leave off? You know what I mean? Like, what was the wonderful answer to that question?
Yeah.
Instead, it can be, here was the springboard
Yeah.
that jumped me into what's next.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? So, because.
Well, it's funny because I was thinking when I listened to the podcast with Dave, and I struggle with the motivation because
Right.
I want instant results all the time.
Right.
I want instant gratification.
Right.
I want to go to the gym for a week and look in the mirror and say, "Oh, I'm happy with what happened." But
Right.
bottom line is consistency. Repetition.
Dave really hit on that.
Absolutely, 100%,
absolutely.
dude. And you know what? It's something that I know, but hearing him say it is like, okay, you know what? Like, I worked out for 2 weeks and I was doing cardio and all that stuff. But that's one of my big things. I just turned 50, dude. Health free. I haven't been the best of my body over the years. You know what I mean?
I hear that.
So I'm kind of getting
Me too. Me too.
I'm kind of like, okay, it's time to let's start making some healthier choices and do nothing drastic, but just do some walking every day. Maybe do some lifting 3 days a week. And even if I went away for a weekend and I didn't do it for 4 days, just get right back to it. Right. And it'll fall, because I'm very easily I missed 4 days, whatever. Same thing I can apply to recovery.
Right.
You got to, even when I don't want to go, sometimes I go, or I have a commitment to go somewhere and speak. I don't want to go. I'm thinking of reasons why up until the day I go, and it ends up being great. You know what I mean? Just that little, so that's something I'm definitely going to be.
Well, I mean, it kind of comes full circle to how we ended up here, right?
Yeah.
So, so these have been evolutions where I'm trying things that I haven't done before.
Yeah.
Right. And they represent time, energy, finance, right? All these things have to align. And, and I'm basically what is it, Field of Dreams? If you build it, they will come, right?
Yeah.
I'm in here he's in here going, what are you doing, Dad? And I'm I'm wiring, you know what I mean? I'm buying equipment and I'm setting everything up. And I was and he saw at least in part the vision and where I was trying to go with it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But if you would ask me 3 months ago, are you going to have a podcast? You know what I mean? The answer would have been no.
Yeah.
These were, and these are things, and I think that's at least in part kind of the seasoning of your assignment, right? Is pick things that are kind of either you always really wanted to do, or things that really don't necessarily fit or are in alignment with what you would expect Georgie Gambone to do next, right? Because if it's like that, then you'll end up trying some shit. Because I didn't really know. Honestly, I got some feedback, yesterday that people were like, "Yo, that podcast was pretty
great,
good, man. It was
yeah,
cool." And I was like, and we got done after the last podcast, and with Dave or whatever, and he was like, "Wow, that's that went really smooth." Yeah. And a couple of people have said to me this is kind of something that's in my wheelhouse. I'm actually not too bad at this.
No, man, I'm nice and relaxed still, man. Shit,
right.
I feel like we just sat down.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
You sent me a message, man. I'm happy.
I was Georgie's coming down. It was the same thing for Dave. He was like, "Oh yeah, hell yeah, I'm in." I was like, "You realize you just signed up for episode number 1?" He was like, "Uh-oh, I'm number 1." I was like, "Yeah."
He did great, man. Motivated my ass. I went out walking this morning. It wasn't at 5, but it was 5:45.
You're not the only person that said that they were inspired and motivated by his story.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean. So that's pretty cool. You know what I mean. The concept behind this is to dance on a volcano isn't to jump the fuck in.
Nah.
Right?
Yep.
It's to dance on a volcano is to flirt with disaster, probably foolishly, but ultimately to dance, which is, to come out the other side and triumph and move on to better things.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Man.
So, and that was kind of why it was weird too, because I was trying to come up with a name for it. And I was and when I said it to a couple people, I felt a little weird saying it too. Cause I was like, are people going to kind of get what I mean by that? You know what I mean? And there were several people came to me pretty quickly and said, "Oh no, I danced on the volcano." They got what it meant. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe that is going to be a cool idea for an episode." So,
yeah, man.
Or for a podcast. So in any case, this was awesome.
Yeah, man. I had a great time.
Yeah, this was really cool.
Yeah.
So, my editor is going to step in and make us look basically 15 or 20 pounds lighter.
Nice. I like that. That's great, man. You kidding? I was trying to suck it in the whole time. I didn't have to do that, bro.
I saw you turn purple over there. Yeah. But really, really cool. Really cool to
props
be able
to the editor, bro.
Yeah, really, really cool. She's dynamite actually. So. But I really want to thank you for coming out. And I think over time we'll do this again. Maybe one of these days we'll get you down here with Vinny and we'll do one with the two of you. So,
yeah.
At some point, I'd like to get some of the recovery family together and get a couple guys in the room at the same time because
Yeah,
we
man.
can
I definitely
laugh
round
and
some
joke.
guys up.
Yeah. So that would be pretty cool. So.
Yeah.
But I know it was a long drive for you. I really appreciate you coming out to
no problem, man.
participate, to dance on the volcano, which we certainly did. So let me get a quick fist pound.
Oh, absolutely.
Let me go.
Man.
That's what's up right there. Boom.
Love you,
right?
baby.
You know what I mean? Love you too, brother.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that's Dancing on a Volcano episode 2 with Jim Dinardo and George Gambone. Let's get that's what's up. Right,
Peace
there
out,
we
bro.
go. Yeah, peace out. You know what I mean? Like, cool.
You
And
got
I'm gonna
it,
do
man.
one right there too. Peace. And this one too. Peace.
All right.
There we go.